Coming up on Oakdale Update, April is National Environmental Education Month. We'll learn all about Oakdale's recycling, composting, and adopted drain programs. Plus, we'll preview some upcoming events taking place in the city. Stay tuned. Oakdale Update is straight ahead. Hello and welcome to Oakdale Update. I'm your host, Frank Arcello. This is the City of Oakdale's news and information program about your community. I'm now joined by Oakdale Senior Community Development Specialist, Shannon Reidlinger. Shannon, thanks for joining us today on Oakdale Update.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. Well, first of all, let's start out. I didn't know we had a Senior Community Development Specialist. What exactly is your job?
We do. So we have a few of them in the Community Development Department, and we focus on different areas of the community. My coworker has economic development, and I focus on environmental management.
Okay.
So if it's anything related to sustainability, that's me.
Good for you. All right, so let's start out. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, education, that sort of thing.
Yeah, so I grew up here in Minnesota, in Eagan, actually, in the Twin Cities, and was here all the way through college. I went to St. Olaf, so stayed local.
Did?
I
Oh,
did.
good for you.
I know, it was a wonderful school.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I spent most of my formative career years in Minnesota, but I was looking for a change and actually lived in North Carolina for the past 7 years.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah, in Charlotte.
Okay, good. Okay, so we're going to talk about 3 action programs that are involved with this program.
Yes.
So let's start out water. Let's talk about the water. Okay, we're going to mention water, soil, and sun, okay, for solar. Okay, so let's start with the water. We want to keep the lakes and streams clean, of course. So what are some of the processes of doing that? And one of the things is adopt a drain. Let's talk about that too, someplace along the line.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
So adopt a drain is a really easy way for residents to keep pollution out of our lakes, streams, and wetlands. That's really important not just for ecosystems, but also for clean water for our households and for all of the manufacturers that require clean water as well. Keeping drains clear is a really, really easy process.
Let me ask you this. Are we talking city drains in the street?
Yes.
Okay.
Stormwater drains.
Okay, but how do you keep them clean? Because they're wide open, so any debris and anything else can run down in them. There's no netting or screens over them. So how does that work?
There's not any netting, but sometimes debris does get caught on the outside of the drain.
Okay.
Now, with the adopt a drain, you don't want to take the grate off of the storm drain itself. That's not very safe. So anything that falls into the drain is just going to go through the system. But the stuff that's caught on the drain itself, that can be cleared away by residents.
So you're saying that if you happen to have a drain in front of your house, go out and clean it out every once in a while, right?
Exactly.
So we're talking sticks and debris and grass and that
Yep,
kind of thing?
trash, anything that happens to, maybe it gets caught up when it rains, it flows down the street and gets caught in the grain. Maybe it's after the winter time and things are melting and there just happens to be trash that's got caught on that drain as well. That's what we're clearing away.
Okay, so what about the stuff that goes down the drain? It's gonna miss a lot of stuff, like the grass clippings and that kind of thing. Goes down in the drain, gets down into the system. What happens to it?
So that, at that point in time, residents don't have as much control over that. That's where water filtration and that sort of process comes in. What we're really trying to focus on here with the residents is catching it before it falls into the drain. So again, want to make sure that I make it clear, don't take the grate off of the drain. We're not trying to go down in there. It's just whatever's stuck on the outside in the street. That's what we're trying to clean up.
Okay, so what happens to, let's say grass clippings and that sort of thing, goes down the drain, what happens to it then? And we'll get into the organic pickup later.
Yeah, you know, I'm not 100% certain, so I'd have to kind of get a little bit more information on the back end stuff of things. My understanding is that some of it can be caught up, but a lot of it does go into our lakes, waters, and streams and causes pollution. It also kind of kicks the balance of those waters off a little bit, and that's where you get the algae and the fungus and that sort of a thing. So if we can try and catch it again on the front end, that's the most important part.
Okay. So now people can sign up to clean these drains, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so how does that work?
So you go to the Adopt a Drain website. It's literally just adopt-a-drain.org. There's a Minnesota region, so you want to make sure that the website that you're on says Minnesota region at the top. And then they have this really cool interactive map with all of the drains in the Twin Cities region on that map. So you can type in your address and find the drain closest to you.
Really? Okay, so what about all the trash and stuff that people pick up? What are they supposed to do? Just throw it in their trash?
Yes, so anything that you pick up, you want to make sure that you're sorting it into the right receptacle. So if it's recyclables, put that in a recycling container. If it's trash, actual garbage, just throw that away in your trash can. And if it's yard waste, put that in your yard waste bin.
Okay. So how long a commitment is this to the people who sign up for this?
So the goal is to try and clean out a drain twice a month. It takes anywhere from about 15 minutes or so. And then you can do that indefinitely for the lifetime of the drain. If you're adopting the drain, think about it as something that you care about and want to take care of. That's going to last forever.
Okay, so again, now the winter time is the worst, isn't it?
Yeah.
After the snow melts and that sort of thing, right? Now you've got papers and trash and stuff hooked up onto into the drain. So, and you just take that and just throw it in your trash, huh?
Exactly.
Just clean it out.
Yep,
Okay.
yeah. So if you're gonna go out and clean your drain, you might wanna take a couple tools with you, a broom, a rake, some sort of a bag to collect all of the waste itself. Anything that you need that will help you cart that trash back to your household. An easy way to think about this is if you adopt a drain closest to your house, then you're not really transporting anything all that far.
Sure. Now, how many people have you got signed up for this?
That's a great question. There might be a handful of Oakdale residents already adopting drains in Oakdale, but I know for a fact that our Environmental Management Commission has adopted 3 drains in Walton Park. So
the commission itself has adopted these drains?
correct.
Okay. And they've got 3 in Walton Park now?
Yes.
Okay, really?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so let's talk about soil. Now,
Yes.
composting, of course, is a very important thing. Okay, because you want to divert organic materials from going down the drains, or what? Where else?
Yeah, so food waste oftentimes goes into landfills where it decomposes and releases methane gas. That's a greenhouse gas. So putting that food waste and organic waste into landfills isn't helping anyone for any reason. We would much rather recycle it, turn it into compost, which is very nutrient dense and can be used by farmers to increase the health of the soil.
Okay. So what does that mean for me at my house? What do I do to collect the food waste and all that sort of thing?
Yeah, so basically what that means is that instead of putting food waste into a trash can, you're just putting it into a kitchen pail to collect and then drop off at a drop-off center in Washington County.
So you're talking food waste? Okay, so, and I understand we have a kit. There's a kit out there to collect this?
Yes, exactly.
What's that like? What is it?
Yeah, so Washington County is the one that provides this composting program. If you go to their website and type in food or its organic drop-off program, you'll be led to a sign-in sheet, a sign-up sheet. You can sign up online to receive a kit, and you'll pick up that kit at a couple different places, either the Environmental Center in Woodbury or the Northern Yard Waste site up in Hugo. The kit itself is a 2-gallon kitchen pail, and it comes with 10 compost bags. Now, those compostable bags, they're specifically designed to be able to throw away in the compost. They can break down themselves, so you want to make sure that you're using those particular bags, not just plastic bags. But the starter kit gets you ready to start collecting those compostable materials in your kitchen, and the only thing that you do after you have a full pail is to drop it back off at either the Environmental Center or the Northern Yard Waste site.
So do you put it back, you put it into a bag?
Yes.
And then you bring it to the recycling center?
You got it.
Okay, so if you didn't do, okay, so I send a lot of food down my garbage disposal. Where's that going? Where's it going?
That's a good question. I'm not sure exactly where the food going
Well, it's going in the
garbage.
sewers. There's some place going down and probably be treated down to the plants in the waste treatment plant, right?
Yeah. The goal is that it's going somewhere that it's not being useful, it's not being recycled.
Sure.
We want to make sure that any of this food waste is going back into the soil in a way that's making it regenerative.
Okay, so again, let's go back to picking up the pail, these pails.
Yeah.
Where do you go to get these?
It's either the Environmental Center in Woodbury or the Northern Yard Waste site up in Hugo.
Okay.
And if you go to Washington County's website for the organics drop-off program, they have the hours of both those locations listed for you.
Okay, so I have this compost pail sitting in my kitchen.
Yep.
Is that going to stink up my kitchen?
That's a great question. It shouldn't. I compost myself. I have a bin that I fill up at once every 2 weeks or so, and it doesn't smell any different than a normal trash can would smell. But if you are worried about that, you can do a couple different things. One, you can put your compost in the freezer. So during the summer, put it in the freezer, or during the winter, just put it in your
Oh,
garage
that's a good
and
idea.
nature will freeze it for you.
Sure.
That should help with any sort of smells or bugs. And the second one is just to make sure that you have a regular schedule for dropping off the compost itself. So maybe before you go grocery shopping on Sunday, just make sure to drop off your compost first.
Okay, so what happens to the compost that you drop off? What do they do with it?
So then Washington County has a process that turns all of that organic waste into compostable material. I don't know exactly what that process is. It involves a lot of science. Most people don't really need to know the specifics. They just know that it is going to a place where it is specifically treated and turned into compost.
Okay, that'd be an interesting thing to find out. Where exactly does it go? Do farmers come and pick it up and put it on their fields, or is it available for people to go get and put in their garden? Would that work too?
That's a great question, and I'm not totally sure, but going to Washington County's website, they'll be able to provide you with
Probably
information.
tell you all about that.
Exactly.
All right, let's talk about sun and renewable energy and the
Yes.
solar panels and that sort of thing. All right, so okay, what is the purpose of using solar energy? What's the purpose of that?
So solar energy is a clean and renewable energy source, and using renewable energy helps lower the number of greenhouse gas emissions in the environment. Traditional fossil fuels really amp up that number of emissions. Renewable energy lowers it. And lowering emissions means that we're helping to mitigate some of those more negative impacts of climate change.
Okay. So a lot of people, it's getting to be more popular too, have
Yes.
these solar panels on their roofs. Now, what is the procedure? Okay, so you get these solar panels and it makes electricity into your house. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a complicated process, but the solar panels themselves are collecting up, storing up energy, and then transferring it into something that's usable in an electric box. So there's a whole entire process of photons and electrons changing and transferring and creating energy that you can use in your household. But that starts with collecting that solar energy in the panels itself.
Okay. Now, have you ever done any statistical studies on putting these panels up? How soon do you get your money back on it? Because I know it's not cheap putting panels up, is it?
It's not. I haven't done any studies, but I know that solar power has been studied quite a bit over the last decade even. There's quite a lot of information out of the University of Minnesota. It's all available on the internet if anyone wants to do a quick internet search.
Okay. Now, you don't know how how you get your money back in terms of the electricity. Okay, it goes to XL Energy. Okay, what do? I mean, they'll give you back credit for the electricity that you're saving them.
Yeah, I'm not totally sure how it works with individual-owned solar panels, but I do know how this works with solar garden subscriptions, if that's something that we wanted to talk about.
Okay, go ahead. How about that? How does that work?
Yeah, so you mentioned before, a lot of people have solar panels, but it's becoming more popular, but it's not something that everyone has access to. Maybe you rent, maybe you live in a condo or an apartment where you can't put up a solar panel, or maybe you have a house that's just not oriented correctly for solar panels themselves. You can still take advantage of solar power through something called a community solar garden. And it's a little bit complicated, but this is how it works. There are a number of developers that install solar panel arrays in Washington County and in the Twin Cities region. They're just a collection of solar panels. If an individual is interested in purchasing some solar power to power their home or their business, they can contact that particular developer directly and subscribe to a community solar garden. They're basically saying, whatever solar power you purchase in your array, I'd like to use some of that. I'd like to purchase some of that. They join up for a subscription. Through Xcel Energy's Solar Rewards program, they then receive a credit on their Xcel bill every single month for the amount of solar power that they've subscribed to with that third-party provider.
Okay, if you go up Highway 95 towards Forest Lake, there's a big solar field, big panels there. So how does that, could I hook up into that electric system?
If that is a third-party solar provider that is providing a subscription, then yes, theoretically, you could say, I'm interested in purchasing some of the solar capacity that that field produces.
What's the mechanical part of that? I mean, because that's way back almost up to Forest Lake. How could I down here in Oakdale get rewarded for using that? And that's a long ways. I mean, there's a lot of underground wires and all kinds of things.
Yeah, that's true. So the mechanics of it are a little bit difficult for me to understand even. There's an entire infographic on Xcel's website that kind of explains a little bit more about how this works. But the whole point that consumers need to know is that somewhere there is solar power being generated. The consumer themselves can say, I would like to purchase some of that solar power, and then they receive a credit on their bill for whatever power is purchased.
Boy, that's interesting. I'd like to know the statistics and see how that really works.
Yeah, it may not be that the exact solar power that's being created by that array is going specifically into my household, but what you are saying as a consumer is, I care enough about these solar panels being accessible to everyone that I want to purchase whatever power is generated and make sure that more solar fields can be installed.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So do you think like new complexes, like we're getting a new complex in the north end of Oakdale.
Sure.
Do you suppose they're going to have solar panels there that would benefit that community?
They could.
Have you heard? I haven't heard anything about it.
I haven't heard anything either, no. But that new complex, instead of installing solar panels, they could also participate in the community solar program and purchase some of their energy from a solar garden.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you get credit from Xcel Energy if you sign up for this program.
Correct.
So can anybody sign up for it?
Yeah, they have to make sure that if it's an Oakdale resident, they need to be purchasing from a solar garden provider in Washington or an adjacent county. So there are specific developers that they can contact, but anyone who's interested can contact a third-party developer and say, I would like to purchase a subscription. What are my options? Some of those providers may have their subscriptions totally full, so they could say, thank you, but look at a different opportunity. Some of them may have availability in their subscription package, and those providers will talk to that customer about how much energy they'd like to purchase of solar power.
Oh, that's great. Well, you know what? We're out of questions here. I think we've covered everything pretty well.
Great.
Right? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so thank you for joining us today on Oakdale Update.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Okay. That's all we have time for in this month's Oakdale Update. We leave you with a list of events taking place in the city. For everyone at the City of Oakdale, thanks for watching.